President, please be seated. The court is back in session. After the discussion and deliberation of the Supreme Court chamber, it decides to grant another 30 minutes for the defense team for Mr. Kilsampon to put questions to this witness. You may now proceed. President, so it depends on the two defense teams for Mr. Nguyen Chia and Kilsampon. You may discuss among your teams how much time you need for each of your teams to put a question to this witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, I would like to get back to a recurring issue. It appears in your testimony, that is to say, the date when you met the investigators from the tribunal, and the fact that you are telling us that you don't really remember the different work groups that came to speak to you about the terrible story, the terrible experience you went through after the publication of the press article. And then I asked myself the following question when I thought about this. When you met this investigator from the tribunal, he asked you to take an oath. Do you remember?
Witness, when he went to see me and interview me, he did not ask me to take an oath, but he stated at that time that I had to speak the truth, nothing but the truth. And I was told by the one from the court to ask me to be here before the Supreme Court chamber, and I was told that I had to take an oath.
Yes, of course, I understand that you're speaking to us about your recent discussion. You said that this discussion happened 2 months ago or so. I'm speaking about 2 years ago, when you met what you qualified as a work group made up of 4 people, and you took an oath that day, didn't you? Do you remember? The day when you signed and thumbprinted this record. In fact, you recognized your signature and your thumbprint this morning. And of course, I mean, you're a policeman, so it's normal. So that day, you took an oath or not?
Witness, I do not recall whether I had taken an oath at that time, but I recall that I put my signature and I wrote down the names by my own.
When you meet journalists or people from other organizations, do they make you sign the records at the end of your discussions with them?
បាទ
Answer. As for the media did not ask me to put my signature, but people from the media went to see me and get some information from me. But as for the one from the court, I was asked to put my thumbprint or fingerprint on the document. And I was interviewed 7 years ago and 2 years ago, said the witness.
Par un représentant du tribunal.
So you were interviewed by a representative of the tribunal before whom you took an oath. Is that correct?
Answer. I told you already, I do not remember that I had taken an oath back at the time that I was interviewed. But here, I have taken an oath. And once again, I had put my signature, my thumbprint or fingerprint on the document.
Ok. Donc maintenant,
So now, witness, you remember, therefore, having met the investigators twice, and therefore having signed these records twice. That is to say, 2 years ago and recently.
បាទ
Answer. Yes, but I do not know whether the two groups came from this same court, or perhaps there was another group. There was one group from the organization, and I recall that I was once interviewed 7 years ago, and I had another interview 2 years ago, and I did not know whether the interview I gave 2 years ago was conducted by someone from the organization or from this court.
d'accord, monsieur.
Fine, very well. Now I would like to get back to the facts surrounding the time when you were brought into the woods from the Shrakdek Pagoda with the families. When I read the written record of interview, the only one that we have, which dates back to 7 August 2008, I see that you say the following. So the index is E3/5201, French ERN 00275-145, and English, Khmer, corrects the interpreter, 00212121, and English 00275139. And you say the Khmer Rouge asked on the microphone if there were former civil servants from the London regime, and they said that those who worked before getting back to their job. Should I stop, witness? I see that you're reading a document at the same time as I'm reading it out to you. What is this document?
Answer. This document was given by the work group.
Donc vous l'aviez gardé?
So you kept this document apparently, right?
Microphone was not on.
Re-
បាទបាទក្រោយពេលគេជួបសម្ភាសន៍មួយខ្ញុំហើយគេត្រូវទុកឯកសារ
After I was interviewed, I was given a document for reviewing.
Council, it may assist that Council Koppe gave the witness a copy to confirm his signature, lack thereof, or thumbprint. The impression that I personally had that it had been left on the witness's desk.
Ça, monsieur, c'est
And just to also avoid any misunderstanding, I guess the working group that recently visited the witness and spoke about the oath, it's the witness unit acting upon our instruction of localizing the witness and then serving him with the summons. There was a contact initiated by this chamber because this is this chamber's witness.
Ah oui, j'avais parfaitement.
I had understood this perfectly well. Indeed, that's what he said 2 months ago. 2 months ago, a representative of the tribunal came to speak to him in order to prepare him for this hearing, in fact. So let me please continue, witness, with what I was reading out to you. But, however, I wanted you to confirm here, the copy that you have here on your desk is the copy that my colleague gave to you earlier. It's not the former one that the old one that you kept with you since. Am I correct?
Answer. I was given this document when I was asked to observe the thumbprint, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, perhaps you did not understand the question well. He wanted to know whether this document was given by the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia. Counsel for Mr. Khieu Samphan did not ask you about the thumbprints that you put on that document. I do not want to intervene, but Mr. Witness, please listen to the questions carefully. Please give your response rightly to the question. Do not exaggerate. The defense team for Mr. Khieu Samphan wanted to know whether the document was given by the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia. So please give your response.
Alors, monsieur,
Well, let me repeat this to you. The document that you have before you, is this the document that was given to you by the Nguyen Chia defense? Or is this a document that you kept with you since you were interviewed and that you brought from your home to here for this hearing?
This document was given to me by the defense counsel for Nguyen Chia this morning.
merci.
Thank you. So, let me get back to what I was reading out to you. I have already given you the ERN, so let me quote. My group, made up of 7 families, was obliged to walk to the south of Sraktak Pagoda and then went through woods and cross streams to the Rongklo forest. We were walking for more than 1 hour under the guidance of one Khmer Rouge who wore a red scarf and who also carried a machete. This guy ordered us to leave our belongings and then asked the people to go cut wood in the forest to build temporary shelters. And they asked the children to stay put. This person escorted 12 people, including my father. I'm stopping here. This was a free translation. To specify that a little bit further down, a few lines further down, you explain that it is this guy or this person who was wearing a red scarf and who came back in order to take the women away and to take you away as well. So, during your testimony, you spoke about one single person who came from the pagoda and escorted you to the forest. And then earlier on, you said that there were 3 people. So, I'm confused. What is your reaction to this significant difference between 1 and 3 people escorting you from the pagoda onwards?
Allow me to clarify the matter once and for all. This morning I already explained the situation. I refer to militia and armed men with a knife who threw the 7 families from Chirosdaje Pagoda through a forest. And by that time we didn't cross any rice field or the stream yet. However, upon the start of the rice field, 2 people were assigned to watch over the wives and the children, and militiamen took away the men to cut trees to make makeshift shelters. That's what I explained this morning. Are you clear enough now, Council?
Yes, it is clear, more or less. Let me continue because I don't have much time. Earlier on, you provided a description of what happened when you followed your father. And you explained to us that you had come back to your mother. So my question is the following. You came back, you went to warn your mother. You were 14 years old, therefore you were young. And given your physical condition, you were probably quite healthy, and you knew that there was danger looming, and you saw that your father had been taken away by 6 armed men, and you had just heard the gunshots coming from the place where you left your father behind, and you warned your mother of the danger, and there were no armed guards next to you or near you, and you said earlier on that you had some military knowledge because you come from a military family. So my question is simple. So why, when you heard the gunshots, why didn't you flee? Why? Why didn't you flee?
I think the question is repetitive of the one that I was asked this morning. When the men were segregated from the rest and was led away by a militiaman, while the other 2 armed men were assigned to watch over the women and the children. But I wanted to follow my father, so I ran after him, and he chased me to go back, but I didn't obey him. And when he and other men were led to cross the stream, I saw 6 armed men on the other side of the stream pointed their guns at my father and the men and took them away. So I concluded that my father and the other men were taken away to be killed.
Mr. Witness, the question was, why didn't you escape? Why didn't you run away? After you heard the gunshots. Please answer to the question.
As I stated, I witnessed my father and the other men were pointed with guns. So I ran back to my mother and asked her to go. And there were 2 militiamen present there, and my mother didn't want to leave. She still believes that My father was taken to the forest in order to cut trees. And about half an hour or an hour later, we heard the gunshots. And then I was running away from my mother and the group, and my mother was running after me and brought me back to the group.
À l'instant, dans
A little while ago, you said that the guard who was guarding your mother was armed. Was he carrying an AK?
Please turn on the microphone for the witness. The 3 men were militia. One took away my father and the men, and the other 2 militiamen were standing guard of my mother and the rest of the women. They were not armed with any weapon, however, they had knives.
est-ce que c'est
When your mother was running after you and you were running away, this is a new detail we haven't heard about before. Was it then that your mother said, "Don't worry, they're just hunting"?
Because I couldn't stand at one place, and I told my mother that why she doesn't want to do anything, because our father is being killed. When I heard the gunshots, that's what I said to my mother, but my mother said, don't think so, son. They are hunting, they are killing the animal. And I told her why she doesn't listen to me. So I ran away again. And then she ran after me and caught me and brought me back into the group.
D'accord, donc vous vous êtes enfui 2 fois.
Okay, so you ran away twice and she caught up with you twice. Was there a lot of hunting in those days in Cambodia? Just after the war, did a lot of hunting take place with people shooting animals with firearms?
Allow me to tell you this. That was a lie made up by my mother so that I would not be scared. She said the gunshot was the killing of wildlife. And she told me not to be afraid or to run away, and she held me still with her. And even when we were walked at gunpoint into the forest in a similar fashion as my father was, she realized that I had told her the truth previously, and she wept by that time.
Quelle était la taille?
How big was the bomb crater that you were asked to sit down besides?
It was pretty large, actually. As I was asked by Nguyen Chia's defense, the upper top was about 7 to 8 meter wide, and the bottom part was between 3 to 4 meter wide.
Lorsque
when you got out of the pit after 2 hours, were you naked? Had you had your clothes taken off you when you were left for dead there?
What I saw with my own eyes, the sarongs or the skirts which were stained with blood were stripped of dead bodies, and I did not know why they didn't strip away the clothing that I was wearing or my other 3 relatives were wearing, or maybe they thought because the clothes were too small. But for the adults, they strip off all those clothes, although they were stained with blood.
When you were explaining why the armed forces did their job badly, I think that's what you said. You were saying that they were in a hurry, and you added it was going to rain. And when you described how you climbed out of the pit after 2 hours, you said it was going to rain. My question is, did it rain?
It was about to get dark and it was about to rain, and that's why I said that they didn't do their job properly, as they were in a hurry to go and get our belongings as spoils so that they could distribute them amongst their family members. And it took me about 2 hours before I could crawl out of the pit, as I was afraid that maybe one of them was still there to watch over us.
Dans la première
In the first phase, when the men were taken away into the forest, how many of these men were there?
The men as heads of the family, there were 7 of them, and then there were full-grown sons, and there were at least 1 or 2 sons in each family, and they were all bundled together to go.
Ça faisait combien en tout?
So that totaled how many, roughly?
I didn't do the head count. However, I could say that my uncle had a full-grown son, and another uncle also had a full-grown son. As for the teacher, he had 2 full-grown sons. So, in fact, they threw away those full-grown men first, and they left behind the women and the children like myself.
Vous nous avez décrit, monsieur,
You told us what precautions you took before climbing out of the pit. You threw some stones into the bushes round about to see if anything was moving in there, and you took care to make sure that there wasn't anybody there. And that then was when you and your 2 cousins and your sister went back towards the pagoda. But what surprises me is that you say that when you got to the pagoda, the guards were after you. and that they were looking for the 4 survivors. But how did these guards know that there were 4 survivors? How did they know you had survived? And why did you go back to the pagoda? Because it was taking the most obvious risk to be caught once again.
But
Of course, I didn't go there to be caught again. The purpose of going there was to look for friends and family members who were still living there in order to ask for their food. And then I was asked about the whereabouts of my parents. Then I whispered to them that they had been killed. They had been shot dead. And of course, the word by mouth spread from one person to the next, and then it spread out through the entire premises of the pagoda, and we had to hide ourselves. And amidst the chaos, there was an announcement on the loudspeaker that people should not believe the propaganda made up by the imperialists, and that their soldiers are in pursuit to catch the 4 persons. The situation was rather confusing.
Sorry, I must interrupt you because we're rather short of time. You said that people knew already. When you got there, people knew already. We'll see in the transcripts because, of course, everything is recorded. But you said that people knew already that you had survived, and that's why I was asking you the question. Let me ask you about the survivors, because I did a quick check on my computer, and nobody ever talks about the Shrazdek Pagoda in describing the events that you relate. Nobody in the case file. You said that there was thousands of people, that there were people you knew well, and that you went back to that place to join up again with the people who were close to you. And apart from your cousin, who you've told us about, can you tell us the names of anybody else who is still alive, or give us any kind of information that would help us to identify other people who might have been at that pagoda at that time and who would still be alive today?
Yes, I can do that. However, I cannot force them to appear before the chamber, and it would be better for you to go and meet them at their respective place of residence. And there are several of them who are related to my parents. After I met them, they asked about the whereabouts of my parents. President interrupts. Mr. Witness, please answer briefly and precisely. And your long response leads to the waste of time. Just mention briefly who else are still alive today. Witness, there are some of my relatives who are still alive.
Pouvez-vous donner des noms?
Can you give us a few names?
ក្នុងឥឡូវនេះ
I cannot do that now since I do not know their real names.
Bien sûr.
Naturally. And my last question, and then afterwards I will let the bench continue. Between your cousin and your... between your cousin and your sister died of tetanus?
របស់ខ្ញុំ
The interpreter cannot hear. In fact, it was my younger sister who was hit at the back of her head by the Khmer Rouge.
Earlier on, you said that she committed suicide. So did she die of tetanus or did she commit suicide?
The witness answered this question.
លោក
Sister who survived the massacre just before the break.
En fait, j'ai pas.
Well, I'm sorry, what you just said was not translated. If you could please repeat.
Our impression is that the witness described the cause of death of his sister as he knows it, and gave the date upon my insistence.
Oui, oui, c'est vrai.
That's true. However, this morning he said that she died of tetanus
Et pas d'un suicide.
and that she did not commit suicide.
President, Defense Counsel, this morning, I actually heard it clearly this morning. However, I'd like the witness to clarify this matter. And Defense Counsel, please put the question again to the witness.
ខ្ញុំបានបំភ្លឺ
Witness, allow me to clarify the matter. I also already confirmed that my younger sister who was hit at the back of her head could not be treated for that, and that led her to psychiatric condition, and that led to her mental disability and ultimately led her to committing suicide. And as I said, her death was the result of the trauma from being hit at the back of her head.
I am done. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
President, it is now time for the bench to put questions to the witness, and my fellow judge Saum Serivot has the floor.
Judge Saum Serivot, I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Witness. My questions concerns the shooting and the killing of people. I have heard your testimonies so far, and you stated that 26 people died because of the killing and shooting. And you also state that you stand by the written record made by the investigator of the ECCC. And you stated repeatedly as well in relation to this matter. Is that correct, that there were 37 members within your group, including your family members? And you also stated that there were 6 armed men with 6 rifles. And you told the court that your members of your group were told to sit down on the ground and the fire was opened at all of you. Could you describe the method of killing at that time? How did they fire towards your members in the group? Witness, allow me to give my response. I have told the court already. They asked us to sit in group in a circle, and then they opened a fire at all of us. Question. So you mean the six-armed men were surrounding all of you? Witness. Yes, they were surrounding all of us, and they opened fire straight at us. Question. So no one escaped. No one could make an escape while you were all being shot. President, Mr. Witness, please observe the microphone before you speak. Witness, no one dares to run away while being shot. We were all in the group. Children would not dare to run away from the mother, and the mother would not dare to run away from the children either. Question. So what about the shooting? Were you all shot by them? President, Mr. Witness, your voice does not go through the microphone or the interpretation system. Please wait for the microphone to go on before you speak. Witness, we were told to sit down on the ground at the specific location. We were put in group, and the six-armed men were surrounding all of us, and fire was opened at all of us. Microphone is not on. Judge Thomas Raywood, while you were being shot, you did nothing but sitting quietly and let these men shot at all of you. Witness, we were told to sit down on the ground. No one ran away, and they shot us. And as for the young babies and children, they were crying. They were crying after the bullets were shot at all of us. And after the shooting, these men went around to hit the babies, and after that they threw the baby bodies into the pit. Question: do you believe that all of these people died as a result of a shooting?
But
Answer: yes. I believe that they all died after the shooting. After the incident happened, and after I could survive from the shooting, I was asking who else survived the killing, but no one. Question: so do you believe firmly that they all died except all of you? No answer from a witness. President, you may now proceed, Judge Milan.
In connection with these questions, can you tell me from what distance were the shots fired at the victims? Or show us. How far were the armed men from the victims when they were shooting? Show us how far from the other booth they were.
បើយើងគិត
Answer: from my estimates, from the place where we were sitting, it was about 8 meters from the place where the victims were sitting, and the fire was opened directly at all of us.
8 meters. 8 meters, this is like from the air conditioning to you? From that wall to you. Is that correct?
Answer. I don't think it is 8 meters from the wall to me. It's about 10 meters.
Asking you to show us how far were those armed men from their victims. So which row would you indicate as their position to describe the distance most accurately? Treat your chair as the position of the victim, and if you could walk over and show from which place the distance would be the same.
Answer. From the place where I am sitting, so I assume that the place I'm sitting is the victim location.
គឺគិតថា
From my seat, from my seat, I could say that the armed men were standing at the corner of the seats of the defense teams, and they were standing perhaps at that location, and the shot were open at all of us. And at that time, I was in the middle of the victim, and the fire was opened from the corner of the bench seats.
Were they in front or in the back of you or at the side?
I was in the center, and people in front of me or around me would be hit by the bullets. And as I told the court, my mother was sitting in front of me.
Facing these armed men, or you were turned with your back to them, or with the side of your body? If you remember.
Answer. I told repeatedly already. The armed men were in front of me, and behind me there were also other armed men. And as I told you already, that there were 6 or 7 armed men, and the man who was shooting at my mother was standing in front of my mother, and I was behind my mother. And as I told the court already, the 6 armed men were surrounding all of us.
How long did it last, if you can tell us?
Answer. It lasted for perhaps half an hour, because there were many of us, there were many victims, and after half an hour, everyone may have died. And I told the court already, as for young baby and infants, the armed men went around and hit and killed them. President. The question from Judge Millard is clear. She wanted to know exactly how long it lasted during. She was referring to the shooting. How long did it last? Witness. It lasted less than half an hour. But I said it lasted half an hour, including the time that they went around and smashed the young baby. And the 6 men were armed with 6 rifles. and the killing, the shooting lasted only 15 minutes.
Mr. Witness, we do appreciate that this is a hard subject, but can you describe whether people were killed instantly or whether it took some effort, murderous effort, to kill them by shooting? Was it by single shots or were there several rounds fired?
Answer. They found it easy to shoot all of us. They were surrounding all of us and we could not be able to run away. So the shooting did not last long. President, Mr. Witness, perhaps you did not understand the question. The judges would like to know whether there were several rounds of shooting or there was only one round of shooting. Answer. They were shooting at the victims were being shot instantly, one after another. And if they saw anyone stand up, the fire would be shot at that individual. So one after another was shot.
You heard crying and screaming once this ensued. After the bodies were placed in the pit, did you hear any sounds of these wounded people? Any crying, any moaning?
Answer, yes, I heard. I heard it. There was crying and moaning while they were being shot. But everyone was shot until there was no silence. The shooting stopped.
And after the shooting stopped, was there silence or were there still sounds of people being wounded?
After the shooting stopped, no screaming, no moaning. Only the sounds of a young baby and infants could be heard, and they went around and smashed the babies and children.
Understand. Thank you.
President, you may now proceed, Judge Mumba.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have only one question. Witness, at the time of evacuation, when your family was leaving, you were about 14 years old. What level of education did you have at that time?
Answer. I was in grade 7 in the old schooling system. I could say that the education system in the past was in a reverse order, and if we finish grade 9, we would move to grade 8. President, could you clarify for the chamber what you have just stated? may confuse everyone here and also judges. In the old system, you would move from 9 to 8, but in the current education system, it is in reverse order. So could you clarify this for everyone?
បាទខ្ញុំសូម
Witness, I would like to clarify for the chamber. It is correct what you have just stated. In the old education system, it was in reverse order compared to the current education system. So we would move from 12 into 11 and downward to 1. And during that time, I was in grade 8. And I was in grade 8, so when I was evacuated. And as Mr. President said already, the old system, the old education system was in reverse order in our regime.
To be clear, witness, that means you had had 8 years of education.
បាទ
Answer, yes.
Thank you.
លោកមេធាវីបញ្ជាក់ឡើងវិញបើសិនជាលោករៀន
President, Mr. Witness, could you clarify again if you state that you were in grade 9 or 8, perhaps you finished only 4 years schooling at that time. So could you clarify again for the chamber? Witness, I started grade 12, and at that time I was not allowed to start school because I did not reach the schooling age at that time. Let me clarify. I first started grade 12 and I failed three times. I failed grade 12 once, and I failed grade 11 once, and also grade 10. I also failed grade 10 because I did not catch up.
Mr. Witness, and what is your education for the present date? Today?
After it is my education level since the time I was evacuated. So I was in grade 9 or 8 in the old education system. President, Mr. Witness, perhaps you misunderstood the question. So what is your education from liberation until now?
ដូចខ្ញុំបានបញ្ជាក់មិញ
Witness, I told the court already, I did not attend any other training or schooling after that time. After 1979, I did not attend any other schooling or education or training because I was very busy finding a rice for my younger siblings to eat. President, Judge Singha, you have any question?
Witness, thank you, Mr. President. Just a short question for you. After you were evacuated from your residence on the 17th of April, you said you traveled 4 days to reach the pagoda, right? And how did you sustain yourself during that journey of 4 days? Did you cook on the way? How did you prepare your dinner, your breakfast? Did you share it with the Cameroons who accompanied you? Can you explain to us a little?
Answer. I was traveling with my parents at that time. And when we were living in our house, normally we had breakfast and dinner and lunch. But while traveling, we could only have 2-time meals per day, and my parents cooked for me and all of us. And as for food, we did not have soup to eat. We had only dried fish and fermented fish paste, salt, and fish sauce. There was no any soups or delicious food.
That's on your way, right? On your way to the pagoda.
ការធ្វើដំណើរទៅនេះគឺវាអត់មានគោលដៅទេ
We were living without knowing where to go. We were moving as accompanied by guards. And when it was time for meal, we would stop to have meal. There's no specific location or direction that we had to go.
Okay. Thank you, witness.
President, you may now proceed, Judge Ayanaran. You are the last one to ask questions now. Judge Ayanaran. Mr. Witness, I have one last question. I know you have been tired since the morning, and you are here being questioned by all parties, and sometimes you feel very unhappy because of the past experience. I have only one question. You said that you were evacuated on the 17th April 1975, and everyone left the city, said Judge, and they were on the way moving to different direction, and it was so crowded. I would like to know, while you were moving together with people, you were traveling on national road or on subsidiary road? Answer: we were traveling on national road 20 something. We left Kampong Chnang to Tekpok district, and after which we arrived Klong Popok, Jumriy, Aural, and Chirok Sadaj Pagoda. Actually, there was a national road up to Tekpok district, and after that we were traveling on the subsidiary road. Judge. So it was so crowded on the national road, and also was it so crowded on national road and also on the subsidiary road while you were traveling?
បាទដូចខ្ញុំបានជម្រាបមិញអញ្ចឹងថា
Witness, I told Your Honor already there was paved national roads up until Tekpok district, and after which there was only subsidiary roads. And we were walking according to what we were told to go. And it was so crowded. We moved very slowly. Judge, I would like to clarify. So you were all on the same direction when leaving Kampong Chnang? Witness, yes. Judge, thank you very much. President, it is now time for the adjournment. I thank you very much, you, Mr. Witness. And now there is one more question from Judge Milad. Please bear with us, Mr. Witness. You may now proceed.
Coming back to these journalists that interviewed you, you said that the investigators or the working group came after a story appeared or an article appeared. What prompted the article at first place? Why someone decided to write an article about you? Or was it you who wrote this article?
បាទជំរាបសួរដែរ
Answer. The press is one of my friends. He or she knows my story, and he or she knows that Pol Pot took my parents and relatives away to be killed. He or she asked me whether I could give an interview to him or her, and he explained me that perhaps there may have been my relatives living abroad and who may help to support my siblings. And this press person wanted to know my story and wanted to help whether there are survivors from the regime related to me.
Is there a reason you don't mention the name of this press person? It's usually that the journalist protects the source, not the source protects the journalist. Does this person have a name?
Answer. This journalist is one of my friends. He is working for Kasanapip newspaper. His name is Ian. I do not know whether he has any alias when writing an article in the newspaper.
Chẳngយើងអស់ពេលហើយដល់ម៉ោងពេលវេលាបញ្ចប់ហើយអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណចំពោះសាក្សីដែលបានប្រើប្រាស់ពេលវេលាមួយថ្ងៃ
President, it is now time for the adjournment, and thank you very much, Mr. Witness, for spending time giving your testimony before the Supreme Court chamber of the ECCC. You may now be excused. Allow me to inform parties and everyone that we will resume our hearing on Monday, 6th of July 2015, and there is one day reserved, which is Tuesday, in case that we could not finish our hearing. Security personnel are instructed to bring back the two accused to the detention facility and have them returned here on Monday. The court is now adjourned.